Yo, what up? What's poppin'? Back at it again with another video for y'all. And this is another pro wrestling related video. I just got another question for y'all because this is another. Because I feel like this would be pretty cool if this wrestler was to go up against this other Samoan wrestler. These are two Samoan wrestlers because one of them had went up against Roman Reigns, and I remember them. I remember when this Samoan wrestler was in the WWE. I remember when he wrestled against Roman Reigns. I remember the match that he had up against Roman Reigns on that episode of WWE Monday Night Raw. That wrestling match was one of the best wrestling matches that I've ever seen. But like he ended up losing to Roman Reigns, but it was still an amazing wrestling match. I mean, this wrestler definitely had success during his WWE career. He went up against Brock Lesnar, he went up against Shinsuke Nakamura. He became the NXT champion. Um yeah, he definitely like had success as a WWE superstar when he wrestled in the WWE. But I just got a question for y'all because this other Samoan wrestler had passed away due to a heart attack. And I don't even think the WWE even mentioned anything about this pro wrestler's death, but he passed away from a heart attack back in 2009. But anyway, I got a question for y'all. Samoa Joe versus Umaga. What if this was a pro wrestling rivalry? What if Samoa Joe wasn't in the TNA during this time? Or what if Umaga was in the TNA? Because, yeah, these are two Samoan wrestlers. These are two Samoan wrestlers that are big, aggressive, and they definitely know what they're doing as like a pro wrestler. But yeah, like Samoa Joe versus Umaga. What if this was a pro wrestling rivalry? Let's have a discussion about this. Here's my answer. This is how I feel about this. A pro wrestling rivalry, a pro wrestling storyline between Samoa Joe versus Umaga. I feel like this would have been amazing. I feel like this would have been an amazing pro wrestling rivalry. I feel like this would be like a rivalry where they'll be having matches like after another on like a lot of the pay-per-views, because when Randy Orton had a storyline when he was going up against Sheamus. Yeah, like the storyline between Sheamus and Randy Orton, that was a back and forth rivalry. It was also a back and forth rivalry when Randy Orton had went up against John Cena. It was also a back and forth rivalry when Randy Orton had went up against Christian. So, yeah, Samoa Joe versus Umaga. I feel like this would have been an amazing pro wrestling rivalry. I know for a fact that Samoa Joe and Umaga would have had the pleasure to work together as pro wrestlers. And yeah, R.I.P. Umaga, God rest his soul, because unfortunately, I don't even think the WWE even mentioned anything about his death, but R.I.P. Umaga. Umaga, he was definitely like one of the best. They called him the Samoan Bulldozer, but yeah, R.I.P. Umaga. But yeah, Samoa Joe against Umaga. This would definitely be one of the greatest pro wrestling rivalries of all time. They'll have matches where Samoa Joe would win the match, and there'll be matches where Umaga would win the match. You know what I mean? Because Samoa Joe, when he wrestled in the TNA, he became the TNA World Heavyweight Champion. He defeated Kurt Angle for the TNA World Heavyweight title. Like the rivalry that Samoa Joe had against Kurt Angle in TNA, that was awesome. And the rivalry that Samoa Joe had against Booker T in the TNA was awesome. Like, Samoa Joe is one of the best to ever do it when it comes down to pro wrestling. Same thing with Umaga. But yeah, Umaga, RIP Umaga. But yeah, my fellow wrestling fans, let's chat. Let's have a discussion about this. Samoa Joe versus Umaga. What if this was a pro wrestling rivalry? Let's chat. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell on my channel, comment, share, like the video. Love y'all.